Previously on the recap sequence.
Hey folks, welcome to the recap sequence. We're back. We're back in the Marvel saddle again. It's been a while,
yes.
but we are ready to talk some Marvel. What's been happening and what's going to be happening, and all things ECCE 2026 with our guest Brent O'Hara. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Hey guys, yeah, it's been quite a while. How are things going?
Going very well on our end.
Yeah.
Yours as well, I hope.
Things are moving forward.
No snow yet. We had
good.
a little taste of it, but it's not quite. For those of you who love Christmas, cool your jets. It's coming. It'll be here. It's inevitable. Stop pressuring me.
Yeah, Brent, like Jamie alluded to at the top, so I saw an announcement this week. East Coast Comic Expo has released the dates for 2026.
Yes, yeah. We're at the 12th and the 13th this coming June, this next June. We had announced it was the week later. We had a little bit of a release date or a adjustment. So I made an announcement there that just for everyone to note in their calendars that there is an adjustment in our arrangement with the Coliseum, the Moncton. So we are on the 12th and the 13th.
That's awesome. And when are we going to expect the first guest announcements?
Today?
In the new year.
You got a whole list for us today, Brent? Well, looking forward to it.
Yeah, that should be fun. Yeah. We are looking to maybe start tickets a little bit earlier this year.
Excellent.
And so maybe there'll be some announcements around that. We'll keep you posted.
Absolutely. Love it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that.
One of the reasons, like normally when we get Brent on, it's usually to sort of like recap a film or films, and but I really wanted to start off the show by, asking you guys, and Brent, because we haven't talked to you since I think East Coast Comic Expo actually.
Yeah,
was the last time we talked to you. Was this summer sort of a relaunch, reboot for the superhero films? Because, everybody was, I mean, a fair amount of people did not care for Thunderbolts when it came out, but then you had within a span of a couple weeks Superman and the Fantastic Four, and there was always a back and forth about which one were you more excited to see. But looking back on this now, did you think this kick-started sort of a new phase, I guess?
In my opinion, it did, for sure. I mean, in certain ways, like, if we look at James Gunn's launch of the new DC universe, of films, they really needed that Superman film to do well, and it did. And James Gunn really gave us a refreshing kind of a fresh take on this world of superheroes, and a nice fresh look, a non-dark look per se at the Superman character, and that which is great. And then if you go over to on the Marvel side, they needed the win too, because there was an awful lot of Marvel fans who felt like they got really bogged down since Endgame, and we're looking for, like a reason to stay in that world, and then so the Fantastic Four and even Thunderbolts, which was billed as something different, and no one really knew who Thunderbolts were, and so they weren't really recognizing it as an Avengers film, which really it kind of was in a smaller scale, and I really enjoyed it. But it was in that small scale kind of it was much of a smaller story, kind of within the context of the century and stuff. But the Fantastic Four gets to be its own thing, unencumbered by everything else that had come before it. They get to tell a straightforward Fantastic Four story, and with Galactus and the characters that you knew and could have been reading since the 60s. Those are the characters you saw, for the most part, and it was sort of a fresh take, and it gave them an opportunity to kind of do the same, like just wipe the slate clean, tell a good superhero story. And isn't it kind of neat how, on the DC side, Superman, on the Marvel side, Marvel side, Fantastic Four, both characters kind of the starting points for both of
Yeah.
those
That's
big
true.
Yeah.
those big
Yeah.
comic universes, right? So they get to have this an opportunity to kind of have this fresh take on the world. Now, they're not going to stay that way, particularly in the Marvel side, because they've got to tie into everything else that's come before here. Maybe not so much. So maybe DC's in kind of a cleaner spot where they can just pick up and move forward from here. So it's going to be fun to watch both of these worlds step forward here into the next years, which at least on the Marvel side, it's a busy year next year.
You had said, though, you especially, I knew you were pro Superman from the start, and I don't know, Brent, if you ever felt the same, because with the Superman movie, I found that was either you liked it or people just said, "Oh, it's just a superhero movie. I didn't like it. It's not my Superman." Did you feel the same way? I'm right with you, right?
Yeah.
Saying that. Did you feel the same with the Fantastic Four?
Well, so the Fantastic Four, I was expecting an absolute feel from the trailers that we had seen. It was very much that that's the Fantastic Four universe for sure. So the thing about Superman that I really liked was I've been kind of like pining for some success on the DC side of things. I've just been like, they just seem to be going down this steep hill of dark and kind of broody stories, and I wasn't sure how they were going to get out of it, because there is a subset of DC fans that's what they really like. They like that that darker DC kind of universe that the video games built.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of a thirst for that.
Well, Zack Snyder
Titans
built, right?
was a good
Yes.
example of that. It was the thing about the Fantastic Four that my one I guess it's like on behalf of Marvel regret is there's some missed opportunities, I think, to have created that aesthetic in other either superhero team ups or superhero separate stories that could have, I don't know, giving the Fantastic Four their own universe and being able to just build it the way that we would love to see them. And now you've got that connectivity for sure. But I think after 30 films, it's like, wow, I wish they had have done this a little bit sooner with some of the other ones where they were very focused on the aesthetic from the Jack Kirby, like those classic looks, because they hit it right on the head. Some of that stuff where they were showing, how they established themselves. They didn't have to get into this origin too deeply, but just, and it's the same. They did that with Superman too, just some battles. It's just kind of like, kind of quick cut as they're telling the story of these heroes that are already established without having to go through this labored origin story. It was just so cool to see, and I'm sure, like Brent, I can imagine you watching the just some of that stuff unfold is almost a dream come true in a superhero movie.
For sure, on the FF side of things, yeah, like in particular, because and this was a long hope for many of us who were waiting for the Fantastic Four to happen. The Fantastic Four was very much a product of its time, and so the notion that they would tell and Marvel, of course, this is Marvel's first crack at their own first family, right? So for them to kind of get to tell that tale, it seemed the perfect setting was to do it in the 60s, or as they were describing it for this film, was that retro kind of futuristic ideal of what that would be, which translates nicely to the environment that group came out of. So that, I think, yeah, like they're capitalizing on that and getting to to frame up the Fantastic Four in this Jetsons setting was a perfect idea.
Yeah.
It was great, you know.
I also think that the way that they were able to use the suspension of disbelief so well as a comic off the page on the screen, though, like this whole idea of we've got to save the world and going to build these teleportation stations. Galactus is just kind of slowly moving through the solar system, and then they get this stuff. But like only comic books will create that kind of, and you're right along with it. So I felt that by building that aesthetic and keeping that keeping within that kind of universe of this is the way things go. Just to have Reed Richards go on TV and say it's going to take everything. We're going to have to suspend, all things worldly and just build stuff. We need all the resources. Everybody just stop everything and let's just build something to save the world. And then, and then just kind of flash forward as this ship is slowly making its way past Mars, and it's like, hey, it's done. I found Superman tries so hard to stay a current, modern, culturally relevant too. There's too much of that, and so it takes a little bit of that. It takes you out of that place a little bit when you start and throw all of those real world, modern references in and language. So the great thing that I loved about the Fantastic Four was they didn't have to bother with any of that. They weren't trying to be cool with any generation. It has its own its own mood. So that's what I loved about it.
It is a challenging kind of the choice that they both made in order to establish where they're going. For both of these films, I liked what they did in both of them for where they're going to go. And I there were some things about the Superman movie that I really really loved. And there was fun to be had with Guy Gardner
There we go.
as the Green Lantern. And that kind of, Mr. Terrific wasn't someone that I was particularly familiar with, because I mean, again, everyone knows that about me, that I'm pretty much a Marvel guy, and I have explored enough. I know enough about the Superman world that the things that happened in this movie were really fantastic. And there was one quote that just really nailed it for me. And I think that James Gunn kind of established the Superman movie as a very of the now moment where we really needed, with all of the division and complication in the world that we're in North America, to take this Superman movie and to create a story where all of this complication, the quote where Lois Lane and Clark Superman were having the interview. And the idea that she kind of calls him out in that kind of, she says, yeah, but Clark, you're this person. You want to look at you see the beauty in everyone, and you just want to have faith in people, as though that's like a negative thing. And his retort, his comeback is that, well, maybe that's the new punk rock.
Right.
Maybe that's the rebellion of today, where good is where people want to go. People want to go to this place where, we want to have faith in humanity. We want to have trust in things that are good, and we want to put our energy into things that are good instead of all of the sort of the negative kind of a potential outlook. So to me, that, and having the good win out in the end, look, the good in this movie gets beat up really bad. Superman being the good, representing the good, he gets beat up, but in the end, the good wins, and everybody wants it. Everybody wants the good, and there's celebrations, and people are happy, and it's all of that. The good wins out in the end, and that was a super powerful message for our today,
Yeah.
So I think James Gunn was really kind of playing into, let's establish that. Let's do a fresh break from all of the, the negative outlook towards life, and let's move into a place of good.
Yeah.
And yes, we're going to have these challenges, and that's what these superheroes represent. They're going to do the good thing, the right thing. So in some ways, like this, that was so powerful in the Superman movie. I loved it. It was really, really great. And then the Fantastic Four, they are kind of bridging. They're going to be bridging that gap. They have established this nice, clean take on this universe. But now we know we've got some connections going to be happening here with everything that came before. We know what's coming next. So the ties in there are going to be super interesting too.
I like the fact that both films really didn't do the whole origin story again. They didn't have, Superman, you didn't have to. We've seen it in literally every other Superman movie that's come up. And even with the Fantastic Four, I felt like they glossed over it. We knew it was there, but I just liked that they both of them just jumped into the story. Like for me, the Superman movie, right at the beginning, the crawl, right, that says, he arrived here at this point.
Yeah. He
has this point, and then he got the crap beat out of him at this point, and then boom, he just lands right into the ground. And it's the same thing with the Fantastic Four. Brent, I want to address the elephant in the room behind you. To our left here, is that the Galactus-sized popcorn bowl?
Yeah, for the visual side of things.
This is the greatest thing about us being on YouTube now. Brent, explain, how does this fit if you're in the theater?
How many was this widely? So when you were in the theater, as I didn't see it in the theater, I didn't even know this existed till you held it up. Was the theater full of these like are people like making elbow room for these giant Galactus ears?
Well, this came out. It was supposed to be showing up in certain theaters in the United States. It was an exclusive in the United States. I had no idea we were going to be actually getting these in Canada. Wow. And when I saw that they had some at our Cineplex theaters in Canada, it was like, wow, gotta do it.
Yeah.
So can you indulge us for a second, Brent? You're sitting there watching the movie. This is literally right in front of you, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
You can't.
This is in your lap.
I pity the jump scare. Like, that's very, very sharp edges on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a very, very cool, the coolest popcorn bucket ever, and they were sold out day one.
Oh, I'm sure. We've gone the way with the popcorn, the way the water bottle went with the Stanley bottle with cups. And I don't know who started this. I know that they have the Deadpool questionable one. This has been going on for a few cycles though, and I'm not sure how they get bigger.
But that's like the biggest one I've ever seen in terms for the popcorn.
Oh hell yeah! Is there going to be? I wonder, will there be a Doctor Doom for Doomsday? Are we going to have the mask? And eventually, people are going to be wearing these. They're going to just hollow out the bottom and stick it on their head. It's big enough. That's the thing. And was it full to the top with popcorn? Like that's it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like you got a certain. You bought that and you got a certain size. You got a large or whatever it was popcorn to fit into it, and it held almost all of it.
Wow,
so that's incredible.
How does that work with the purist collector? You know how people are like, I'm not taking the plastic, the label, nothing off this, and then you put greasy popcorn in it. That for me. Oh, okay. Yes. Well,
there you go.
There's a win. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's got the switch.
That's pretty cool.
See, now that would have been cool in the theater when the lights go down, then everyone flicks the eyes on.
Yeah, I looked over at my kids and said, do you think I need to turn the lights off, for the movie? And they all kind of nodded at me.
Right.
Yes, Dad.
Come on, Dad.
You got to turn that off so that everyone can enjoy the movie.
Yeah,
that is incredible.
This certainly raises the bar for 2026 for popcorn containers.
The recap sequence will return after these messages.
Hey, this is Jamie,
And this is Ryan.
and we're the Recap Sequence.
Be sure to tune in to us every Wednesday night on CHSR 97.9 FM. We're online at chsrfm.ca at 7 p.m. Atlantic, 6 p.m. Eastern.
And if you don't catch us live, you can catch our podcast on Spotify, on Amazon, anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel you may have been watching, and if not, you should be. Catch us on YouTube at Recap Sequence.
And subscribe.
Subscribe, yeah, please.
We now return to the recap sequence.
I wanted you. We were talking about that positive vision that Superman brought out, and it just made me think of the Thunderbolts and how they tried to do that, but in a different way that wasn't. I did not find it was as successful because I felt there was a little bit that felt contrived, and it was the same thing that kind of happened with Captain America 4 and we talked about this. As it was just, for me, it was an editing nightmare, whatever they ended up with for Captain America 4. Do you feel like the Fantastic Four is positioning Marvel a little bit better to kind of seize back onto that positive messaging, the feel good that they would get you out of a Guardians of the Galaxy, for example? I just feel like the last maybe three Marvel movies that preceded Fantastic Four tended to be going down a little bit more of a slope of dark, looking for hope, but the characters themselves have so much internal problems, I guess, that's really what you see is the hurt versus the healing.
I agree with you. Yeah. Like Thunderbolts was that. It was kind of that exploration where maybe it's the take where, you know what people need right now is everyone's in this dark place. So people need to be able to identify you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're not alone in this dark place. And we're going to show you all these characters that are in this dark place. And here's how they get out of it. They band together, they put one foot in front of the other, and they come together. And through that coming together, you can survive, you can succeed. And that's what Thunderbolts was. So Thunderbolts, you're right, it was not only a sort of an acknowledgement, but maybe an exploration of that darkness. And the message coming through Thunderbolts was that idea of, no matter how dark and hard it gets, hang on to the people around you, make that connection, and you'll be okay. But you're right, through that, what you come out of when you come out of the theater, you're coming out of the theater. Well, wow, I would just watch 2 hours of darkness.
Yeah, it's like bittersweet, but it's dark.
It's a good, okay, we get a little bit of a hopeful message there, and the story was good, but boy, it's so heavy on your soul. Like that's just that, and that's what people don't, maybe, and that was a sign of the times too. It was like, okay, people, maybe they needed to hear that. Maybe they made a choice to kind of go there, but people are tired. They don't necessarily want to go to the movies and just have their energy go to that place. That's what they get enough of that on the, just on the watching the news.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It betrays that escapism, like a little bit, in that you're trying to connect too much with the times, where Fantastic Four, it was its own time. It created its own, place, like the Wizard of Oz. You're there. It doesn't matter. It's timeless. So I really liked that. That's what the feelings I got out of Fantastic Four was. There was none of this attachment, to Bucky's madness or whatever, there's no anger. There was no anger in the Fantastic Four. There was definitely desperation and all those themes, but it was always buoyed by some kind of Reed's got a plan. We'll come up with this, we'll get to the answer, and we're going to solve this. But it really didn't get down to that whole and I don't want to say hand-holding level. I mean, but it really, it's an important message. But I just found like the last two Marvel movies, maybe the last two specifically, a little bit, the producing got a little
You're
bit
saying
too
before Fantastic Four.
before Fantastic Four,
so Cap 4 and Thunderbolts.
Exactly. So it really, the studios got more of a piece of it than the storytellers, I feel like, and where Fantastic Four and Superman, to its extent, it was really the comic book again took over. I felt that Superman was again, it didn't have the same degree of suspension of disbelief as Fantastic Four had, but it did have enough of it. Like, like Jimmy was pitch perfect. There was like a lot of it that happened that was like, this can only be off the pages of a comic book. Save some of the modern references. And Fantastic Four was just completely true to that. So I like them both. I know I did have an affinity for Superman. I was just looking to get out of that.
But it's true though,
uniform kind of look.
I remember when they first announced Fantastic Four and the subtitle was First Steps or whatever, right? A lot of people didn't like the fact that this was going to be, sort of like, as Brent alluded to, Jetson-esque. I think people were expecting a movie just to hop out of what we're dealing with today.
Yeah,
and I do like that they didn't do that with this one.
And it sets up a really interesting, crossover now. That the idea is that the Fantastic Four are going to be joining the our Earth, or whatever it is on the screen, in that kind of a setting where that's modern times. They're really going to. It would be like the Jetsons showed up in modern day Manhattan, right? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting juxtaposition how they just kind of accept how the Earth looks in a different place.
Well, and I love the comic connections there that they've created, or connections to not just the comics, I guess, but the how this is set up with both of these films. And I don't like. Do you guys want to talk about some of the fun comic, or some of the tie cool things that in the movie and how it's kind of tying to the future?
Sure.
Like the idea that Franklin is like he is in the comics. Franklin is born into being connected with the power cosmic. Galactus makes us aware of this. He recognizes Franklin. Hey, this child is born of the power cosmic. And like many of the connected larger echelon, highest tier embodiments in the Marvel universe, are all of the power cosmic, or connected to the power cosmic, including like the big characters like the Grandmaster and the Collector and Ego, and like these large scale characters. Well, Marvel, in a way, they set themselves up so that they could do a Galactus by introducing us to the Celestials. And we get these stories. We've been introduced to the Celestials. They're these massive, yet still humanoid shaped characters and that are as old as the universe. And so now the audience that has been watching Marvel movies for the last decades has suddenly been prepared for a large scale humanoid character with a human face. So like we saw in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the Anywhere, or the base that they are living in is the skull of one of these large humanoid characters, and you can tell just by looking at it that's a skull.
So were you pleased with the Galactus present representation in this film as opposed to the second Fantastic Four they did?
Oh, you mean the Cloud? Yeah.
That goes without saying, I think.
Yeah. There was no that was a huge betrayal to Fantastic Four fans, but that's because the producers had zero confidence that the audience would go for a large man, that was an alien and that would be in this form. But Marvel, the MCU, has already established that in a way that we can completely buy into that. Mm-hmm. So when the Fantastic Four are these tiny little characters on Galactus's ship, or walking up to the precipice, that edge, and then all of a sudden Galactus's his eyes light up. That's like that's maybe the biggest wow moment in that
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's like, wow, there he is. This is Galactus. This massive scale, awe-striking appearance of this character. When we get not only do we get a proper Galactus that the Marvel fans would have been wanting for forever, ever since that poorer representation of the character in the past. We get a proper Galactus. But not only that, we've established Galactus now. We look forward, and we know that the Russo brothers were big fans of, when they were young, the original Secret Wars story. And the original Secret Wars story was what kind of had them saying, you know what, we would come back for? We just finished Endgame. We just finished this massive. We need a break from Marvel. This was the biggest thing we've ever done. But you know what we would come back for? Secret Wars. So this is a big thing for them. And who's a major part of Secret Wars? Galactus. So you gotta wonder what this is setting up in the future. We have these two takes on Secret Wars in the comics, where you have both of them have this battle world scenario, which is really interesting and allows them to do some really interesting things. We can't wait to see what they're going to do there. But the appearance of all these villains and these superheroes together on Battle World, and then have to combat one another. We don't know exactly how much of a take they're going to do on it, but just there are some very key characters that include Galactus and Doctor Doom. Massive, huge central part of both takes on the Secret Wars story. And who do we get teased at the end of this Fantastic Four movie? Who has appeared and is now talking with this Franklin Richards child, who is known to be is connected to the power cosmic in the multiverse. We see Doctor Doom kneeling right there, having a conversation with Franklin Richards, and that's our big tease, for the future. So that's pretty cool, and we know by the end of next year, when we get into Doomsday, that those are the connections that they're going to be trying to really kind of tie as they bring all this stuff together. So while it's its own piece, it still manages to have some really big connections established to what was before, and in moving the Marvel story forward.
What I found interesting too is, so I have not followed the Fantastic Four very much, but I did start reading. I hadn't finished it, but the history of the Marvel Universe, and it begins with Franklin and Galactus having a conversation. Now, please just tell me one more time is sort of how it starts off, and so that's the thing. As soon as we were talking Franklin Richards in the movie, and I kind of had a sense that that's where it was going, because there was a pregnancy involved. But that immediately, the fact that Galactus had such a keen interest in Franklin, I just immediately just brought me to that recent the series that had come out, thinking like, what a great way to kind of wrap things up from on one end, but also just this immediate connection that gets established that I was not aware of at all, but it just for me it just kind of tied a few separate things stories together in a really neat way.
So I'm just curious here, as we get near the end of this episode, that Brent, it's common knowledge you are Marvel through and through. With this past summer now, has James Gunn's DC sort of helped intrigue you to look ahead and go, okay, I'm actually interested to see where this is going to go? Because since Superman, I've watched Peacemaker season 2, which was really good. They had a lot of links to the Superman movie in that one, and they've got more coming, including the Lanterns, I think in 26 for on HBO. So has this intrigued you? I don't have to ask him, because I know where his answer is already.
100%, because and I haven't watched Peacemaker yet, but I plan to, just because of those connections that you talk about. There's a real appeal to that idea of this. You can get into this world. You liked this movie, okay, you want to be in that world a little bit more. We have these other avenues, but something that this movie did that was really great the super rich characterization that we got for Lex in this movie was powerful. He did he was not a good guy, but he was, just he did an awesome job with that. But it's such a Lex move for him to have cloned Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that to be the thing through the movie, you don't get it. Like, how is this guy beating Superman? And you recognize that he's being beaten by himself.
Yeah.
That this is the way that they managed to do that is with Lex's intellect and conniving, kind of scheming with all his machines and all the technology that he used in order to be able to get the advantage on Superman using this clone. Great story. But then what? Then we have the black hole, and you have the Superman clone being sucked into the black hole. Superman fans are going to go, wait a second. They're setting up Bizarro. They're setting up that other Superman with this character. That is like what comic fans are going to be thinking of, and what's going to excite comic fans more than that kind of stuff. That's like, whoa. They just hinted at something that they could do really cool here, and that gets the fans excited and on board with, all right, so this next Superman movie. And not only that, like, and I'll say initially, I wasn't happy with. There was only one thing in each of these movies that I was less than happy with when we watched them. The drunk Supergirl. I didn't like that.
I didn't love that either. It wasn't necessary.
But and I'll call out a buddy of mine who's a massive Superman fan, Mr. Matty Rogers. He explained that to me, that this was the Woman of Tomorrow story being alluded to, where Supergirl can go to galaxies that have solar systems that have a red sun instead, and the red sun affects them differently than the yellow sun. But there's a whole story component to that. So it's like it's like, wait, this is a setup, and what's the next story we're getting? Is this Supergirl, right?
Yeah.
From James Gunn.
Yeah.
So again, really strong tie into what's coming next, and we're going to see what goes. If you want to stay in this world or get more of this, now the Supergirl story is not going to be as apparently, like, it's not going to be as sort of the hopeful take. It might be it has some darkness to it, apparently. So we'll see what's going to be happening with that. But I think that they did a great job of setting this up. Lanterns, can't wait to see what's going to happen with that.
Yep.
I really enjoyed what they did with Superman.
Yes.
I loved its hopeful message. The having a love story between Lois and Clark, the music.
Yes.
You guys must appreciated that.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like the ability to evoke those feels for anyone that had seen that and loved those Superman movies, to hear those themes in the music so nicely placed and so powerfully done that was huge.
Yeah.
Boy, that
Absolutely.
was played really well.
Well, look, Brent, look, we'll have to stop it right there. But I love how we can have a Marvel chat and you can still tee up the DC awesomeness. So well played. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tune in for our next episode. We're back with Brent. We're talking what's coming up in the MCU. Brent, thanks so much for the chat. We'll talk to you again real soon.